Welcome to the AmericanaMusic.com podcast with your host, Sarah Popejoy.
Today on AmericanaMusic.com podcast, we welcome Jerry Douglas. He's a world-renowned dobro and lap steel player. He's won 16 Grammy Awards, 3 CMA Awards, and numerous IBMA Awards, including multiple Dobro Player of the Year Awards, a member of the band Union Station since 1998. He's also performed with Billy Strings, Phish, Paul Simon, Ray Charles, and Elvis Costello. He's produced records for Maura O'Connell, Molly Tuttle, Jesse Winchester, and Eric Clapton, to name a few. We are excited to have Jerry Douglas on the show today. Welcome, Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here in rainy Nashville, Tennessee.
It's been raining a lot here, too, in Oklahoma. Can you talk a little bit about where you grew up?
Sure. I grew up in northeastern Ohio, in Warren, Ohio, in the steel belt. I'd say from Pittsburgh to at least Detroit, where all the cars were made and where all the steel was made in the old days. Yeah, growing up there was great. It was a booming town. There were 2 chickens in every pot, and everybody had a job, everybody had a home. It was wonderful growing up there, and there were so many people there that had moved north to find work, right? And because Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, all of those people moved north to work in the steel mills, they ended up taking their music with them. My father had a band. He played guitar and sang, and they were all from West Virginia, and he called them the West Virginia Travelers. And they were the only, well, there may have been 2 bluegrass bands in the Northeast at that point, but it spread fast. He was as busy as he wanted to be. When he wasn't working in the mill, his band would play in the beer joints and stuff around Warren and on the weekends. And when I was about 13, I started playing in the bars with them. These guys, they could have kicked me out and said, "Get away, kid, don't bother us while we're playing music," but they didn't. They let me hang out. I learned how to arrange songs, learned how to arrange backup vocals and all this kind of stuff when I was 6 years old, rolling around on the floor watching these guys rehearse.
It's awesome.
It was very cool growing up in a musical family like
Yeah.
area like that.
I lived in Ohio just briefly, and Ohio is very, I think, supportive of music, too. Not everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'd say more so around Dayton, and because so many people from Kentucky went to Dayton. You know, Red Allen was from there. The Osborne brothers were up there. When I played with the Country Gentlemen way early on, we played around there a lot. But Ohio, in general, was a good place for music and all kinds of music. I mean, there were some great rock and roll musicians that came from that area. Joe Walsh, all kinds of people. It was a really good rock and roll area. I heard lots of great bands growing up there and a lot of musicians that went on to prominence. It was a good, fertile musical ground, Ohio. You're right.
Yeah, for sure. Can you talk a little bit about some of your musical heroes growing up?
Well, my musical heroes, it was easy. It was Flatt and Scruggs, the Stanley Brothers, Jim and Jesse, and, you know, those were the records that were in our house. Plus, I got to see Flatt and Scruggs twice when I was a kid. That was like seeing the Beatles to me, you know? I've got so many good memories of being up there and hearing good music. Those were the people that I got to see live, but my real hero was Josh Graves, who played the dobro with Flatt and Scruggs, and that just did everything for me. It was the coolest looking instrument I'd ever seen. Just the way he played it, just the way he could play and keep up with Earl Scruggs, presented this kind of blues to the music that hadn't been there before, not to that extent. And that gave Flatt and Scruggs a broader appeal, gave them, you know, more people would come to see them. It was just something that no one else had. Josh, he's legendary. He's the first guy to really introduce dobro into bluegrass music and really make it work. He's been my role model ever since.
So how did you get started playing dobro?
I got a Silvertone guitar for Christmas one year, and I played that as much as I could. My dad had a nice Hummingbird Gibson guitar, and he had a D28 Martin. I wasn't allowed to play those guitars until I really knew what I was doing. But I had this Silvertone guitar that was like a cheese grater, you know, the strings were kind of high, and it hurt to play. And then my dad took me to see Flatt and Scruggs, and I already knew that I loved hearing the dobro on the records. But when I saw him play live, when we got home, I remember asking him, "If you raise the strings up on my guitar a little bit, I'll learn how to play like that guy." So I started out with, I think he cut the end off of a toothbrush.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Put that up there and made notches in it and put the strings in it and raised the strings, you know, up high off the neck. And I used a piece of copper tubing as a bar, as a slide, was my first slide. Not very good quality stuff. It did the job. It made me believe that I was really, really playing. You know, I was really headed in the right direction. You know, I was going to be a huge star with this silver tone guitar. Last guitar I'll ever need.
That is awesome. I love that. Love that story.
That's how I got started playing the dobro, was just seeing it. Hearing it was great, but seeing it, John Fogerty told me the same thing. He said he didn't know what it was when he heard it, but he had to find out. That's another thing. When Creedence Clearwater's record Green River came out, John Fogerty's standing on the cover with a dobro. And I would take the record to school and I'd go, you see this, you guys? I'm going to play with this guy someday. It only took me 30 years, but I did it. And John's a good friend of mine. And he also has the same birthday as I do tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. That sound the guitar makes is just so different than any other instrument. It also was very vocal. So I was a singer when I was a little kid, younger kid. I played the mandolin and sang supposedly like Ricky Skaggs or Sam Bush, a contemporary of theirs, but I gave it up so they could play it. And I played dobro instead. It seemed to come easy to me, but I had, music around me. I had my dad playing the guitar, and there are some similarities to the two instruments and tuning wise and things like that. Really, there was no one around there that could tell me what to do with this thing. No one knew what it was. The music store that I went to see if I could order one from them, they didn't even know what it was. I finally brought a dobro brochure in, and that's how I got my first real dobro. The only guitar I'll ever need. I just keep moving through them. That was kind of it. That's what really made me want to play.
That's awesome.
He was my hero.
In 1975, you started with a band called the New South, J.D. Crowe.
Yeah, J.D. Crowe and Tony Rice and Ricky Skaggs was in the band, and Bobby Sloan played the bass.
It's probably one of the most influential bluegrass albums in the genre, called Rounder 0044.
That's how people know it, not by the name of the record, but by the number. There are people who just have fan clubs for 0044.
Oh, wow.
What's that for? Yeah, that record, it just went into the Grammy Hall of Fame.
Oh, man.
And last year, it was the 50th year, and it was put into the Library of Congress. Every year, they add 20 songs to the Library of Congress that move the needle in a genre. That record went in last year, and I was so proud of that. And then the Grammy Hall of Fame this year, that record, we made it in 1975. I wasn't in that band yet. I was actually still playing with the Country Gentlemen and living in Washington, D.C. I was asked to come in by J.D. and the band to play on just a couple of songs, and I ended up playing on most of the record. I was 19 at the time.
Wow.
So I was kind of blown away just by being in the same room with these guys, and Ricky and I had played in the Country Gentlemen together, and then he had left the Country Gentlemen to go down into Lexington, Kentucky to play with J.D. Crowe when he had a change in his band, and it just created this super group of acoustic musicians, Tony and Ricky and J.D. all in one band. It was just like a huge change in the weather for bluegrass music. And then when I joined the band, I did what Josh Graves did in the Flattened Scruggs. I just gave them this other sound that they didn't have, but was at the same time trying to help them give bluegrass music a broader appeal, and doing it through that band was the ticket, because first of all, there was Tony Rice on the guitar. He had no equal.
Yeah.
And J.D. Crowe, he had no equal. I couldn't have fell into a better situation. And it's thanks to my friends Ricky and Tony and J.D. We just kind of went on from there. I was only in the band for 6 months, but it was like the amount of things that happened in those 6 months was equal to like 5 years of being in any other band, and the accolades and all the stuff that happened to us. We were in Japan. We cut the ribbon on the first Kentucky Fried Chicken in Tokyo.
That is great.
And there's a lot more that goes with that. Went to Japan. I never thought I'd ever go to Japan. How can you not just like smile all the time?
Oh, yeah.
It was a great experience.
That's cool. Bluegrass, musically and artistically, is kind of a blending of the past into the present. What draws you most into that genre? What do you think about that genre that just really calls you?
That genre is my home, first of all, bluegrass music. As I've gotten older and been in all kinds of situations with musicians from other genres of music, I think we all kind of go to school on each other in those situations and take what we've learned and bring it back home. I've done tours with Elvis Costello and James Taylor and a whole bunch of people like that. I add that to my encyclopedia dictionary of how to play a certain thing, how to emote, how to be sensitive to the singer, the substance, what the song is about, try to get way into that. That's the main thing about learning to be a musician and it's like being a painter, I think. You use different notes and different parts of the octave to paint behind the singer, usually, and create scenery for the singer. That's my job. That's the job I love the most. And I've had so many great singers to back up, like Ricky and Tony and Vince Gill and Dolly Parton, Ray Charles, Alison, Krauss. I love ghosting her vocals. Dobro is an instrument that can do that kind of thing. It's so vocal sounding. It has this human element where I can play notes behind her that sound like another singer's joined, but it really hasn't. That's me just coming up to support her.
Yeah.
But bluegrass is still the genre that we come back to because that's where our chops were built, and bluegrass musicians playing acoustically, usually, if you want to be louder, you have to play harder. You have to know how hard you can play before you start to just defeat the instrument, until it starts to sound bad. But there is a level. You don't have a volume pedal or anything. You just have your right hand and makes the guitar louder and makes the guitar softer. You can do whatever you want to. It's just sort of the mixture of genres. None of us are that far apart. A lot of it's geographical and a lot of it is training. In bluegrass music, there is no training. The training that you get is by ear. You don't usually come across a written page of a bluegrass song with notation or anything like that. It started out as a word of mouth music, and it still is. Basically, everybody learns the music from just playing it. We never read it, or a lot of people will do tablature for a solo or something like that to be able to follow the solo. But I've done that a lot. I've written tablature, but I haven't played it. I love teaching the younger folks who are coming up, anything they want to know, anything. I'm an open book, whatever they want to know about anything that I've ever done or how to find something that I don't know where it is. I'm happy to be in the hunt for it as well. That's what I'm doing. That's my whole life, is searching for a certain sound. I'm almost there.
Oh, I love that.
I'm searching for this sound, and when I find it, I'm going to let everybody know. It's a wonderful vocation in life, is to be a musician, because there are all of these things that open up, and you're using your mind. You're freeing your brain. Everything you've ever heard, everything you're trying to find the things you haven't heard. Yeah, that's what I do. I'm always looking for something new.
That's all. I read a Coltrane book one time, and they were talking about the way that he viewed music was not what was being played, but what wasn't being played. So I love that.
Yes, he was chasing something he didn't hear. And there are times when you leave things out that are the best move you can possibly make. Instead of playing through something, not playing is like louder than anything you could play. It has more effect sometimes than the best backup lick you could come up with. Sometimes playing nothing at all is the choice to make. That's really the route to take.
Cool. Very cool.
And I think that's what he was talking about. And I've heard stories about John Coltrane, who he'd be missing and they'd find him in a bar listening to country music because he liked the stories.
Oh.
He was playing jazz and he was playing bebop and he was playing above anybody's. Nobody had ever heard what he was doing. It was all brand new.
Yeah.
He was an amazing human being and he could do this. Died way too young. Who knows what he would have done if he had lasted longer. He loved Hank Williams, things like that. Great for me to think about John Coltrane and Hank Williams have a new single.
Oh, God.
That'd be amazing.
That'd have been amazing.
Yeah, we can wish.
So the last part of this band, I may need help with their pronunciation. The Earls of
Leicester.
Oh, that's easy.
That one gets to everybody.
I'm trying to make it complicated.
Everyone does. They want to say Leicester. They just won't even attempt it. I was flying home from London, and I was staying in a hotel close to Heathrow, and I was coming out, and I was trying to name the band. We had the band, but we didn't have a name for the band. I had like 20 different names. None of them were working for me, and then I passed this road that was just called Leicester Road. I knew the British pronunciation. There's a Leicester, North Carolina, right outside of Asheville. Yeah, I've had a Rolling Stone come in, and the first thing they said, what can you tell us about the Earls of Leicester? And as soon as I said Leicester, they did the same thing. It's a Flatt and Scruggs band.
Yeah.
That's what the band was for. I always wanted to have a band that could do those songs and do them exactly like Flatt and Scruggs. But I call call it Flatt and Scruggs the next day. Yeah, it's Lester. And that ties the room together.
And it won a Grammy Best Bluegrass Album.
The first one we did, I put the band together and I scouted around for who's Earl Scruggs. Well, the best Earl Scruggs player I know is Charlie Cushman.
Yeah.
Charlie Warren is the son of Paul Warren, who actually played the fiddle with Flatt and Scruggs, and he plays exactly like his father. Doesn't really want to play like anybody but his father, and that's great because we channel that energy right into the band. Those two, you don't really need anybody else to tell you that they are Flatt and Scruggs. The two of those guys, they're the core of the sound of this record, of this band. So the first record we put out, I just took a look around and I didn't see anybody in bluegrass music doing that, where the stuff came from. They did Bill Monroe songs, and everybody does Flatt and Scruggs songs, but they don't do them like Lester and Earl did. We sat down and copied, knew when the backup were for the banjo and knew where the backups were for all the instruments, and laid it down exactly like alongside a Flatt and Scruggs recording, and we cut them at the same speed, we cut them in the same keys.
Oh,
Exactly the same.
that is cool.
NPR, Fresh Air, Terry Gross, they interviewed us. They did take a Flatt and Scruggs record and then segued into us, and I couldn't tell. It was freaky.
Wow.
The last piece of that band, the last guy to put into it was Sean Camp, the lead singer. He showed up to rehearsal in Les Flatt and Earl Scruggs garb. He had the suit, the tie, the hat, everything that they did on stage. Earl and Lester would dress alike, and then the rest of the band had their uniforms too. But he showed up and he started singing. We played about a half a song and I just stopped. Chills. I was freezing to death from just listening to this and how close and how real it was. And I said, this is it. Now we have to record soon, and I found a 4-day space in my schedule and we went in and recorded. It was just to re-enter Flatt and Scruggs into the bluegrass scene. Now I see so many bands with hats and the coats. We did what we set out to do, made people aware of what Flatt and Scruggs really meant, how big an impression they are on bluegrass music as a genre.
Wow. Your most recent album that came out last year, The Set, can you talk a little bit about that album?
Well, I wanted to do a record and re-record some of the songs that I recorded a long time ago. Songs, when you first write a song, if you go in right away and record it, you don't really know that song. You kind of know it, but you don't know all the things you can do with it and all the places it might go. And over the years, it did take all of those roads. And with the band that I have at this point, Daniel Kimbrough on bass and Christian Settlemeyer on violin and electric guitar, Mike Seal, which is different. I did record some of those songs that I wanted to from long ago, but we wrote new ones too. And people were always coming up and wanting the set list. As soon as you're done, people are reaching over, grabbing the set list. I just thought, why don't we just cut the set list? And then people can walk away with a really good version of what we are. We may play those songs during the show, and it's just like you just recorded the show and you take it home with you. It's the same thing. My friend Willie Matthews, he's a Western watercolor artist. He painted painting. You open it up, and it's a whole 2 albums of one painting that he did. He was in Scotland when he went away to figure out what to paint, and he ended up painting the castle that's in a Monty Python movie. And we both knew the guy that owned the castle, and it was okay, he's cool, so we'll use the castle. And one of the first people that anything about the record said, "Hey, isn't that Monty Python castle?" Yes, it is. These guys that I play with, I just want the best, and these guys I think are the best. I couldn't ask more from them than what they give. It's amazing. I love playing with them. It's kind of interrupted right now because of the Alison Krauss tour, so I'll be out until October.
You're opening for her though, right?
It's actually misleading. The fellow named Willie Watson is actually opening the shows for us. I'm in the band, but I get this featured position in the middle of the show where I just play by myself. And I wish they'd play with me, but they leave. And so I just kind of do my best to entertain the crowd all by myself for about 15 minutes, and then they come back. When I first joined the band, I had a career going already. I didn't want to just dump all of that, so I asked they could just put featuring me, and that was when I first joined the band in 1998, and they said yes. When the tour was announced this year, there it was again, featuring Jerry Douglas, so I thought, well, I'm not going to argue with him, but I don't need that. I don't, and I'm not asking for it, but there it was. Got a way we do our shows, and it's It's a beautiful show, and she's singing. She's so good right now. It's best ever she sang. And I've known her since she was 14 years old.
Oh, really?
Ken Irwin from Rounder Records brought Alison to Nashville, and I was moving that day, but I stopped off at Bela Fleck's house, and Bela and Sam and I were sitting there, and poor Alison's playing and singing for us. And she's playing the fiddle and playing all these fiddle tunes, and then she sang a song, and we all just went, "You're a singer. You're a great fiddle player, but you're a singer. Please sing, 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 sing." And, I don't think we had to push her very hard, because she has this amazing voice, and it's changed over the years, but it's still got this ethereal feel. I mean, she's got such control and laser pitch and all these things, and it's just a beautiful sound that she makes, and I love painting all over that thing.
One more thing I was going to say about your album, The Set. You've got a song featuring Aoife O'Donovan, and she's singing matching your dobro, which is really cool.
I found that song written by a jazz guitar player, Mike Stern. He did the same thing on a record. There was a lady that sang every note that he played except for his free solo in the middle, and that's the melody of the song, but there are no words. I thought, who can do this? I mean, Alison was a natural choice, but I wanted this record to not be an Akis record.
Right.
I had to resist that, and not have Alison there, but Aoife was my next choice, and she did just a beautiful job. I recorded it, got my part the best I could get it, and then sent it to her and explained it to her, and she just did it. So beautiful. It's one of those songs, the melody is so strong and so beautiful that you don't need words. The dobro and her voice just melded together. So nice. It's like one note.
Yeah, it's really cool.
She's a beautiful singer, just a great singer. She and the Sarah Watkins and Sarah Jarosz are out there together. I'm with her. They're great to hear together. They're just a powerhouse.
Great album. I've heard that new album of theirs.
I haven't heard it yet, but I know it's great. I know they're not going to do anything that isn't just great. And Aoife's that way. She's very particular, same as Alison, and Sarah Jarosz. These women, they listen. They have big ears and they hear everything, and they want it to be right. And it's beautiful when they finish.
I'm a big Nancy Griffith fan. They have a song on there that was giving props to Nancy Griffith and John Prine.
Well, Nancy and John were kind of inseparable at times. I've done shows where I'd sit in with the two of them would be on the show, and we'd all just throw a band together and play it. It'd be great. John was a good friend of mine, too. We had Nancy over for Transatlantic Sessions, this thing I do in Scotland every year. For a while, we were recording when they were on TV. We would do 2 weeks in a manor house or a castle or something over in Scotland in the Highlands and film it all. Put these people to collaborate together, people from the United States and people from the UK and Ireland and Europe. Throw them together, people that didn't know each other, big singers on both sides of the pond, and throw them together and see what came out. And oh my, such beautiful stuff over there. And Nancy was in on one of the first, I think the second one we did. We were filming it. She did Boots of Spanish Leather.
Oh, yeah.
That one just took us all on a great big journey. It's a long song. We arranged it where it would be different all the way through and interesting all the way through and culminate this huge band crescendo, and always paying attention to what she was saying and what she was doing, what she was singing. Never get in the way of an artist singing. Stay off the vocal.
That was on one of her Other Voices album.
Oh, yeah. Other Voices, right?
Yeah.
I never recorded with her because she loved Lloyd Green, and I do too. Say, I'm sorry, but I'm just stuck on Lloyd. Yeah, Nancy was great. Nancy was a good friend, and we all miss her here in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
Her and John. My God, what big holes they left and big shoes to fill.
The new album, Alison Krauss and Union Station, Arcadia. It's the first album since 2011, Paper Airplanes, which won multiple Grammy Awards, debuted #1 on Billboard's Country, Bluegrass, and Folk Album chart. One of the things that's different is Russell Moore replaced Dan.
Replaced Dan Tominski. Dan is playing guitar and mandolin on the record. I mean, he was on the record on the recordings because we never really stopped recording. After Paper Airplane and the tour and everything, we recorded all the way through the Alison and Robert tours and all those kind of things. When she'd come off the road, we would go in the studio. We actually have 2 records. We released Arcadia, and next year we'll release another record.
Oh.
We have another one that answers a lot of questions that Arcadia leaves.
Oh, I love that. That's exciting.
They're connected. Both records have the same kind of a feel. Alison, she says, if you're not sad when you leave our concert, we haven't done our job,
Oh my gosh, I love that.
So that opens us up to a lot of material that we couldn't normally do, on a bluegrass record. When we want to play bluegrass, we have the firepower to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Those years that we were off the road and not playing together, I really missed it. I mean, I had plenty to do. I did a lot of other things, even through COVID. I played on 50 records probably just because I have a studio here. People would email me songs and I would overdub on them and send them back to them.
Wow.
It kept me busy even through COVID. COVID was terrible and it killed a lot of people, but it was the first break I'd had in 40 years, so I took it full advantage of it and stayed home. My wife and I actually found out we like each other. During COVID, it all came full face. You had to grapple with a lot of these subjects that you hadn't paid attention to in a while, because life goes on busy, and suddenly life stopped. And so, okay, who is this person living in the house with me anyway? And one friend of mine Danny Thompson, bass player over in the UK who played with Richard Thompson. He played in several bands, that were great coming up, Celtic bands and all kinds of bands like that. He wrote to me and he said, I found this woman walking through my house and she says we're married. We've been married for 50 years. And I think it's going to work out okay because she makes a really good cup of tea, but she doesn't know a damn thing about football.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh.
So that kind of summed up COVID for me. It was like, okay, let's see if this works without all the other moving parts. And it did, a lot of people closer together that didn't have a chance before. We're also busy.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I've always loved about Union Station, even before Alison Krauss's soaring vocals come in, which are unmistakable, it's Alison Krauss immediately. Also with Union Station, as soon as they start playing, it's Union Station. What has been the glue to the sound of Union Station? In what ways has it progressed?
I think our vocals are better now. I think Russell coming in tightened up a lot of vocals. Dan Tominski's an amazing singer and just an amazing performer, amazing person. He had gotten this solo career going and we were recording and everything, but, and I think he was still making up his mind about what he was really going to do. And when it came down to like finishing the record and him singing the record, that's when things changed. We went to Russell about the singing those parts because Dan's guitar and mandolin are there. The thing that makes Akis sound like Akis is just the mixture of the personalities that we play with. You put those personalities and those musical instruments and those minds all down, and that's the sound we make. And when Russell came in and we hit the first downbeat on the first song, it was there. So we didn't lose anything. And then we brought Stuart Duncan in too, because there are a lot of strings on the new record and a lot of weird guitar tuning parts. Stuart's way into that kind of stuff. He's a good explorer. He'll try anything and he's knocking it out of the park. It's like the perfect storm. We couldn't have Dan, but we've got Russell Moore, who came out of the same graduating class as Dan. Then you put Stuart Duncan on top of that and it's just amazing. It's Akis Plus. It's more than it was before. It's more than the sum of the parts even.
I hope I get to catch y'all out on the road. I'm really excited about you guys touring again for sure.
We're loving it too. We're loving it. We have such a good crew and everybody's so friendly and everybody's so happy. And we're out there with 3 buses and 2 semi trucks. It's like not your normal bluegrass band. We're playing to 8,000 people a night. I've done a few of Billy Strings things where like 24,000 people in there and they just go crazy. It's such a phenomenon. But he's playing songs that my father played. And these people are just going completely bonkers, and I'm going, this is great. They're there to see Billy and whatever he does and the house of Billy that night. But we can come in and do the same thing. Playing to a lot of people. We get a lot of reaction. Traveling, there's a lot of expense that goes into bringing that kind of a band into town. Bluegrass is in a pretty good place right now. And I think it's Billy and Molly Tuttle. I produced a couple of her Grammy records.
Wow.
It's a good fertile time for bluegrass music. It's sort of a renaissance period, I think.
Yeah, definitely a lot of really great stuff happening right now.
Yeah.
Jerry, I just wanted to thank you so much for being on the show. It's been such a pleasure getting to interview you. I've been a fan of yours for a really long time.
Thank you. That's sweet. I'm so happy that we got to talk today. You asked a good question.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Next week, we've got a special surprise guest for you, James McMurtry. This is usually where we end our show, but I wanted to share with you something special, something I've been working on lately. It's called American Music Town. It's not set to even come out until September of this year, but follow the show so that you won't miss an episode. I'm going to give you a little description of that project. In towns and cities throughout the United States are the historical landscapes of Americana music. They tell the stories that have changed our culture, our politics, and even how we listen to music. The American Music Town podcast takes you on a musical journey into America's both famous and lesser-known towns with stories you don't want to miss. Hosted by AmericanaMusic.com's Sarah Popejoy, that's me, travel with us as we seek out the history behind the music that has changed us. Thank you so much for listening to AmericanaMusic.com podcast. Be sure to go to AmericanaMusic.com and find playlists of the Americana artists we've interviewed here. Also, be sure to follow us on your favorite podcast platform.